Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. I recently joined a group for antisocial people. We still haven't met yet. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Rommel's War from Worthington Games.
We'll get back to the review in just a moment. I want to take a minute to ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, books on history, military history. I even post some of my lectures for my classes on there. Please check that out. Please subscribe to that channel. And now, back to the review.
In Rommel's War from Worthington Games, 1 to 2 players take on the roles of either the British or the German forces in North Africa in 1941-42. The game board is a map of North Africa. In the east, you've got Alexandria. In the west, you have Alaglia. These are kind of the starting places, or the reinforcement places, rather, for the British and the German forces during the game. Of course, you have the British have a massive control here at Tobruk, and they're attempting to, of course, both sides are attempting to battle each other, to destroy each other, and to claim that prize or keep that prize of Tobruk. Now, essentially, at the top of the game board, you have kind of a track, turn track. You're going to place on certain reinforcement phases for each player a number of units up there, and they will come in, like I say, at Alaglia or at Alexandria on the proper turns. Each player will also have a deck of initiative cards. They will give certain advantages. They will let players essentially add a point to their combat totals or allow them to have an extra move during their turn. Now, every round you have the reinforcements phase. Both players go ahead and they reinforce, again, placing their reinforcement units either at Alexandria or Alaglia. Then you will draw 1 initiative card. Now, as I say, you can place this initiative card up in front of you. You can use this either for to give you more combat power, or you can use it to give you an extra movement. Now, for round 3, you can make 2 movement actions. Again, if you want to spend your initiative card, you can make potentially 3. But essentially, you can move 2 different block groups. That is to say, a maximum of 4 of the blocks can move along the main roads here in order to get into position to attack the enemy. Now, critically, you can also try to maneuver around some of these roads to block some of your enemies from gaining supply. If they're out of supply, they will be eliminated. So it's important that you can maneuver responsibly. Now, if you move blocks into your opponent's location, battle ensues. Now, the defender will have a chance to retreat, but then both sides have to reveal at least 1 block that is remaining. You may want to reveal them all. It's up to you. You may want to keep some secret. But you reveal the blocks, and then you look at the strength value of each of those blocks. You add them together to see who has more strength. Now, again, with your initiative card, you can add more strength to your side if you want, based on the number on that card. So you go ahead and you add up, you total up who has the most combat value, and whoever wins, they can remain. The loser has to retreat, and they're also going to lose a block. Now, both players are going back and forth. They are attempting to attack each other, to take each other's positions, to surround each other, to eliminate enemies that are cut off from supply. And they are attempting to destroy each other and take Tobruk over the course of the 10 turns. The ultimate objective is to take the opponent's base. If the Germans can take Alexandria, they win immediately. If the British can take Alaglia, they win immediately. However, after the full 10 turns, if neither side has conquered the other's base, then whoever owns Tobruk wins the game. However, if one side holds Tobruk and the enemy surrounds Tobruk on 3 locations, by 3 locations, it's essentially under siege, in which case you look to see who has the most units still on the board, and they will win Rommel's War. So this is a super light block war game. That is to say, the rules are incredibly easy to learn. It's an incredibly easy game to play. there is some real strategy in how you are maneuvering your blocks and how you are attempting to take those locations. Although you have several battles at Tobruk, there's also fortifications you can put up there. There's aircraft. There's some other things I didn't really get into, but that's it in a nutshell. And you're trying to take Tobruk, or trying to sneak around and take one of the other side's bases during the game, which is not as easy as you might think it is. Now, one thing I was not wild about this game, and that is the deterministic combat. I don't like games where you just add up numbers and it's who's got the most wins. To me, that's not as interesting. I like the luck that comes with a die roll, right, or playing cards. And here you do have the card which can grant you, another combat strength. But generally speaking, I really prefer. And you do have to remember, sirs, you have to play the card before you reveal, so that you're burning the card in that sense. So I'm not a fan of deterministic combat. I do like that aspect with the card. In you have to determine you play it before, but again, it doesn't really add much to the combat. So I'm not a huge fan of that aspect of the game. Now, I have to tell you this: I'm just talking here about the two-player game. I have not played the solitaire game. There is dice that you do use in the solitaire game, but I'm just coming at this from playing the two-player game here. So I'm not a fan of the deterministic combat, but I do really enjoy the maneuvering and trying to get into position. And the game feels like a very simplified Rommel in the Desert. If you played that Columbia Games title, which was really good, it kind of feels a lot like that, but kind of a lot more accessible, a lot easier, a shorter game too. I like this game on the whole. I had fun with this game on the whole, but that deterministic combat keeps me from giving it a full go for it recommendation. I'm going to say try it before you buy it. It's a positive try it before you buy it. If you like the theme and you want something that's kind of easy to get into, not a particularly difficult game, I think you'll really get a kick out of this. If you're like me and not a huge fan of deterministic combat, maybe it's not for you. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, I'd ask you to please leave a comment here on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. I'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history, books on history, fun things like that. I'd ask you to please subscribe to that channel. It would mean a lot to me. Also, please leave a thumb for this video on Board Game Geek, and if you are a fan of the channel, if you like the content we bring you, I'd humbly ask you to click on the Super Thanks button and leave a tip. I recently had a Russian Uber driver. His name was Pickup and Drop Off.
Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
I remember back when we both started on Board Game Breakfast around the same time, and now look at us, both hosting illegitimate dental practices out of our basement.